I didn't tell her anything right away. I just acted normal, or at least as normal as I could. We went back to planning the wedding, tasting cakes, looking at venues, all that stuff. But every time she smiled at me, every time she said, "This is going to be the happiest day of our lives," I felt this weird mix of anger and sadness. Because I knew now. I knew what she was really after. Or maybe I was just scared I was right. The real test came a week later when I handed her the folder. We were sitting at the kitchen table. She had that look on her face like Christmas morning. "What's this?" she asked. I said, "It's the prenup. I thought about what you said, and I want to protect both of us." Her eyes lit up. She opened it. I watched her face as she read the first page. Then the second. By the third, her smile was gone. She looked up at me and said, "What is this?" "This isn't what we talked about," I shrugged. "I know, but this one's fair. Protects what's mine, what's yours. And, just in case anyone tries to take advantage." I said it calm, real calm, but the words hung heavy between us. She stared at me for a long time. Then she laughed. Not a real laugh, more like a sharp, short sound. "So you don't trust me?" she said. I looked at her, dead in the eye, and said, "Do you trust me?" There was a silence after that, long enough to hear the clock ticking on the wall. She didn't answer. She just flipped the pages again, her jaw tightening. Then she said, "I can't sign this." And that right there told me everything I needed to know. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just stood up, walked over to the counter, grabbed my coffee and said, "Then maybe we need to slow down." She followed me into the living room, saying all the things you'd expect, how I was overthinking, how I was letting my past ruin this, how we're supposed to trust each other. I just let her talk, because I'd already made up my mind. That night, when she fell asleep, I sat out on the porch and thought about all the times I'd ignored my gut in the past. How many times I'd let someone else's version of love cloud my judgment. And I promised myself, not this time. The next morning, I told her I needed space. She cried. She begged. Said I was throwing away something perfect. But you know what? Perfect doesn't need a 30-page contract written behind your back. Perfect doesn't start with secrets. So I packed a bag, drove to the lake cabin, and stayed there for a while. I didn't block her. Didn't delete her number. I just went quiet. Let the silence do the talking. A few days later, I got a text from Chris, my lawyer buddy. He said she'd called him, not for legal advice, just to ask questions. That told me everything I needed. She wasn't heartbroken. She was figuring out her next move. A week after that, I got my answer. A mutual friend sent me a screenshot of her Instagram. New picture, new guy, big caption about finding true love where you least expect it. And you know what? I didn't even feel mad. I felt relieved, like I dodged a bullet. A slow-moving bullet I almost convinced myself to walk into. Truth is, I learned something from all this. Love isn't about contracts. It isn't about who can protect what. It's about trust. And the second you have to dig around for it, you already lost. I heard from her one last time, maybe a month later. She called late at night, said she missed me, said the new guy wasn't who she thought he was. I just listened. Let her talk. Then I said, "Amanda, I hope you find what you're looking for, but it's not me." And that was it. Click. Silence. Now, I sit here on this porch sometimes, look out at the lake, and think about how close I came to signing away, not just my money, but my peace of mind. And I'm grateful, Because sometimes the best revenge is just walking away with your dignity intact. So yeah, after that email, everything kind of shifted for me. I still smiled around her, still kissed her goodnight, still talked about wedding colors and guest lists, but my brain was somewhere else entirely. Every word she said, every little thing she asked me, it all felt loaded now. And the weirdest part? She got sweeter. Like, overly sweet. Always making my coffee before I got up. Rubbing my shoulders when I looked stressed. Asking, "How was work, babe?" in that sing-song voice that used to melt me. Now it made me nervous. It's like she could tell I was pulling back, and she was overcompensating. That only made me dig deeper. I didn't want to spy, but I had to protect myself. So I talked to my buddy Chris again, the lawyer friend I mentioned. Told him everything. He said, "Man, if she drafted a prenup without your input, and there's talk of assets, get your own lawyer, now." So I did. Quietly. I didn't tell her. I had the lawyer look over the prenup she gave me, and he didn't even sugarcoat it. He looked me in the eye and said, "This isn't protection, it's extraction." I asked what that meant. He said, "If you sign this, you basically waive any right to contest her financial moves if the marriage ends quickly. And it's full of odd language clauses that protect future joint assets from being considered marital. That's not normal, unless someone's expecting to come in, grab what they want, and leave." That hit me hard. My hands got cold. Because somewhere in my gut, I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. I started thinking back how she never really introduced me to any close friends of hers. How I still hadn't met her dad. And how her phone always faced down on the table. But what pushed me over the edge was her ex. One night, she got a little drunk. Not sloppy, but loose. And she started talking about the one that got away. I laughed it off like, "Oh yeah? What happened to him?" And she just smiled and said, "Let's just say, he wasn't smart enough to protect what he had." I chuckled too, but inside, I froze. I went to the bathroom, shut the door, and just stared at myself in the mirror for a good 5 minutes. That was it. That was the last straw. I had to know what I was really dealing with. So I made a decision. I hired someone, a private investigator. I know, sounds dramatic. Sounds like something rich people do, but trust me, it's cheaper than getting cleaned out in a divorce. I gave him her name, her address history, anything I knew. I didn't expect anything crazy. I just wanted peace of mind. A week later, he called me back. Said, "You're going to want to sit down." My stomach dropped. He told me Amanda had been married once before. No big deal, right? Except the marriage lasted exactly 13 months. The guy? Filed for annulment. And get this, he cited fraudulent intent as the reason. She fought it, then walked away with a settlement. Small, but still. She had another fiancé before him, too. That one never made it to the altar. But somehow, she walked away with his condo. I asked the investigator how that was even possible. He said, "Let's just say she's very persuasive, and she knows how to pick men who don't ask questions." That messed me up, man. I couldn't think straight. My fiancée, the woman I thought I was going to grow old with, she'd done this before, more than once, and I was next. Or at least, I was supposed to be. So now I had a choice. I could confront her, blow it all up, or I could play it smart, stay quiet, and turn the tables. That's when I remembered something. The lake cabin. My granddad's place. I hadn't shown her the paperwork on it yet. She kept asking, but I always brushed it off, said I'd get around to it. So I talked to my lawyer. We moved it into a trust, quietly. Changed a few other things too. Made sure my will, my accounts, all had clear separation. Then I made one last move. I created a new prenup. One that protected me, truly protected me, and not just in case of divorce, but in case of proven manipulation. My lawyer said it was aggressive, but airtight. And then, I printed it, put it in a folder, and waited. You ever sit across from someone you love and get that weird little feeling in your gut that says, something's not right? I mean, everything looks fine on the outside. The wine's cold, the sunset's pretty, there's music playing low from inside the house, but then she says something just one sentence, and suddenly your brain won't shut up. That was me. That was the exact moment it hit me. Amanda had her feet tucked under a blanket. We were out on the porch swing like we always did after dinner, and she turns to me, real calm, and says, "Hey, so I've been thinking, maybe we should get a prenup." Just like that. Like she was asking if I wanted to order pizza next week, and I remember just sitting there, nodding slowly like I was okay with it. But inside I was trying not to panic. Now look, I'm not some wide-eyed kid. I'm 46. I've been through a divorce. I know marriage ain't all hearts and flowers. But we hadn't even set a date yet. We were still in the glow of being engaged. And she's talking prenup? I sipped my drink and said, "Yeah, we can talk about that." But I didn't sleep much that night. Truth is, I laid there listening to her breathe beside me, and I started wondering things I never let myself wonder before. Like why she was always so curious about my old house by the lake. Why she asked if my savings were in a joint account. Or how she laughed, half joking, about how nice it'd be to have a backup plan if things didn't work out. At the time, I chalked it up to her just being smart, practical. But now I was replaying all those comments in my head, and they started to sound different. She wasn't nervous when she brought up the prenup. She was prepared. Kind of like a person who's had this conversation before, maybe more than once. And I know that sounds paranoid. Maybe it was. But when you've already had someone walk out on you once in life, you don't take that second chance lightly. You pay attention. So I started watching, not in a creepy way, just observing. Little things, like how she always asked me to email her copies of important paperwork in case something ever happened. Or how she once said, "It's so sweet your granddad left you that cabin, it's probably worth a ton now, huh?" And maybe the kicker was when she found my old life insurance policy in the drawer and said, "Babe, does this still list your ex-wife as the beneficiary?" I told her I hadn't checked. She smiled and said, "You should update it soon. Just in case." Just in case of what? That's what I kept asking myself. And it's not like I had proof she was up to anything. But the gut feeling didn't go away. In fact, it got worse. There was this one weekend, maybe 2 weeks after the prenup talk, when she left town to visit her sister. She forgot her laptop. And I swear I wasn't snooping. I just saw the screen light up when I walked past the kitchen. There was an open email draft. I didn't touch anything, didn't scroll, but the subject line hit me like a brick. "If he signs it, we're set." That's all it said. Nothing else. Just that one line. My heart started pounding. I stared at that screen for a long time, then I shut it. I didn't open the message. I didn't want to, because if I saw more, I couldn't unsee it. I went outside, sat on the porch alone, and just stared out at the trees for like an hour. I didn't even know who "we" was. Her and who? A lawyer? A friend? Someone else? I tried to tell myself maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just about work. But deep down, I knew better. That was the moment I stopped pretending. I decided I needed to know exactly what I was walking into, because if she was planning something, I wanted to be a step ahead. Just once in my life, I wanted to be the one who saw the ending before it came crashing down.